They're quiet but not shy, kind but not always warm, insightful but rarely understood. Sigma INFJ walk through the world like they're wearing an invisible cloak, seen but never truly known. Welcome to Brainy One, where today we dive into why Sigma INFJ are misunderstood by nearly everyone around them. People can't quite figure them out. Their silence feels confusing. Their independence seems cold. Their depth, sometimes too much for casual connections. But none of it is arrogance or distance. It's just different. Sigma INFJ live in a world of nuance, emotion, and intuition. They don't fit in boxes, they don't follow scripts, and they don't seek approval. And in a world obsessed with surface and speed, that makes them almost impossible to decode. In this video, we'll explore what makes Sigma INFJ so rare and why their misunderstood nature is actually their greatest strength. Let's begin. They're private by nature, which can seem mysterious or distant. Sigma INFJ are naturally private, not because they're hiding something, but because they're protecting everything that matters to them. Their inner world is rich, layered, and deeply personal. They don't let people in easily, and they rarely feel the need to explain themselves. To the outside world, that can come off as mysterious or even distant. But the truth is, they're just selective with their energy. They believe real connection takes time, and not everyone deserves access to their most vulnerable thoughts. So they move quietly, observe more than they speak, and when they do share, it's meaningful, not performative. This privacy isn't coldness, it's intentional intimacy. They'd rather be misunderstood than misused. So if a Sigma INFJ seems hard to read, it's not because they're closed off. It's because they're waiting to see if your presence feels safe enough to open up. And when it does, that depth is unforgettable. They think deeply but speak selectively, which confuses surface-level communicators. Sigma INFJ live in their minds, constantly thinking, analyzing, connecting dots that others don't even see. But when it comes time to speak, they choose their words carefully. They don't talk just to fill silence. They speak when something feels true, when it matters. And for surface-level communicators, those who thrive on small talk, quick replies, or constant validation, this can feel confusing, even intimidating. Because the Sigma INFJ might listen quietly during a conversation and then drop a single sentence that cuts through everything. Truthful, precise, and impossible to ignore. Their depth makes others uncomfortable, not because they're trying to be intense, but because they are intense in the most authentic way. In that authenticity, it's rare. So rare, in fact, that most people misread it entirely. But the ones who stay long enough to understand, they discover that Sigma INFJ aren't silent. They were just speaking when it actually matters. They value authenticity over approval, making them appear unfriendly to some. Sigma INFJ don't play social games. They're not interested in impressing people, following trends, or saying what others want to hear just to fit in. They value authenticity over approval every time. This makes them stand out, and sometimes it makes them misunderstood. To those who seek constant validation, a Sigma INFJ might seem cold, uninterested, or even rude. But the truth is, they're just being real. They won't fake a smile or pretend to agree just to keep things smooth. If it's not aligned with who they are, they won't entertain it. And in a world obsessed with likability, that kind of honesty can feel threatening. But here's the thing. Sigma INFJ don't care about being liked by everyone. They care about being true to themselves. So if they seem unfriendly, look again. That quiet presence is often the most genuine one in the room. You just have to slow down to feel it. Their emotional depth is hidden behind a calm exterior. At first glance, a Sigma INFJ seems calm, collected, even unshakable. But underneath that stillness is a deep ocean of emotion most people never see. They've mastered the art of keeping their face steady while their heart feels everything: joy, sorrow, empathy, intuition, all at once. They don't wear their emotions loudly, not because they're numb, but because their emotions run so deep. They need time and space to understand them. That calm exterior is their shield. It gives them room to breathe, to observe, to process. To someone who's used to emotional outbursts or constant expressions of feeling, the INFJ might seem distant, cold even. But make no mistake, they feel more than they show. And when they finally do open up, you'll realize just how much they've been carrying, quietly, patiently, and with more emotional strength than most ever recognize. Their silence isn't absence, it's depth in disguise. They often see through people instantly, which feels unsettling to others. Sigma INFJ have a quiet superpower. They see through people almost instantly. Not just what you say, but how you say it, what you avoid, the micro expressions, the hesitation, the energy you carry into the room. They don't need long explanations or dramatic moments to understand your true intentions. Within minutes, they've already read the emotional tone and filed away what doesn't match your words. And that kind of insight, it unsettles people, especially those who rely on charm, manipulation, or masks to get by. When a Sigma INFJ looks at you, it feels like they know. And often they do. Not because they're judging, but because their intuition is razor sharp. They observe, they absorb, they sense what others miss. So while others are still making introductions, the Sigma INFJ already knows who's real and who's just performing. That truth makes people nervous because it's impossible to fake authenticity with them. They disappear without warning to recharge, not to reject. Sigma INFJ have a tendency to vanish suddenly, quietly, and without much explanation. One day they're fully present, the next, they're nowhere to be found. And for those who don't understand them, this can feel like rejection, but in truth, it's self-preservation. When their emotional energy is drained or their environment becomes overwhelming, Sigma INFJ don't push through like others. They retreat to recharge. Silence becomes their sanctuary, solitude their medicine. It's not about you. It's about them needing space to breathe and return to center. They may not text back right away or show up for every event, but it's never meant as punishment or neglect. It's simply how they survive. They disappear to reconnect with their intuition, with peace. So if a Sigma INFJ goes quiet, don't take it personally. They're not pulling away to reject you. They're stepping back to refill what the world quietly empties. They challenge norms without needing validation or attention. Sigma INFJ don't rebel loudly, but they do rebel not with drama, not with defiance, but with quiet resistance. They challenge social norms, question authority, and reject the rules that don't feel right. Not to be seen, but because truth matters more than approval. While others follow the crowd to stay safe or accepted, the Sigma INFJ walks alone if that's what integrity requires. They don't need praise for thinking differently, and they definitely don't need applause for being bold. They simply can't betray themselves to fit in. To some, this makes them strange, rebellious, even difficult. But really, it makes them free. And that freedom is unnerving in a world built on conformity. People don't understand how someone can be so sure of themselves without needing outside validation. But the Sigma INFJ doesn't need to be understood. They just need to be honest with who they are. And that's their quiet revolution. They show love quietly, so their care is often overlooked or misread. Sigma INFJ don't always say, I love you in big dramatic ways. They don't overwhelm with grand gestures or loud affection. Instead, their love shows up in the smallest, most meaningful ways. A check-in when you're low, remembering details others forget, or simply sitting with you in silence when words would feel too heavy. Their care is subtle but deep. And because they're not loud about it, people often overlook it, or worse, misread it as indifference. But the truth is, Sigma INFJ feel everything intensely. They just express it through presence, consistency, and emotional depth, not through noise. They love in ways that don't demand attention, ways that are easy to miss if you're not paying attention, but unforgettable if you are. So if a Sigma INFJ cares about you, don't expect fireworks. Expect quiet loyalty, fierce emotional protection, and a kind of love that whispers, I see you, I'm here, I always was. Have you ever felt misunderstood because of your silence or depth? Tell us in the comments, which part of being a Sigma INFJ do people misread the most in your life? Your story might make another INFJ feel less alone today. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dive insights right here on Brainy One. Because you weren't made to fit in. You were made to stand out quietly, powerfully, and authentically.